Hello and welcome to Inland Empire Alive, bringing you issues, events, and perspectives from throughout San Bernardino and Riverside counties. I'm David Brady, and today I'll be discussing ways that all of us can lead healthier lives with local health and wellness coach Evan Roberts. That's today on Inland Empire Alive. Well, joining me now is local health and wellness coach Evan Roberts to talk to us about how we can all lead healthier lives. Evan, thank you for being on the program.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So I want to start at the very, very beginning.
Okay.
What is a health and wellness coach?
Good. So health and wellness coach, as opposed to your traditional fitness coach, for example, is someone who takes a look at health and wellness from a wide array. So in terms of what you're eating, how you're sleeping, what's your stress like, are you staying hydrated, these kind of things, as opposed to just counting calories and going to the gym frequently, right? Which is important still, of course, we need to move our bodies, but a health and wellness coach really looks at all aspects of health, mental, social, all that.
When you hear that phrase, do people think, oh, it's a personal trainer, it's someone standing over me, shouting at me to feel the burn and,
Yeah, I try to really do a good job of letting people know that's not what it is. It's, I still want people in the gym and, finding whatever movement practice is right for them, but it's definitely more of a, an easier approach. I do coach people one-on-one, but it's, not just in the gym, it's talking to them and finding out how their week went, what kind of foods they were eating that week and how they're feeling because of that, or what their sleep was like.
Do you ever find that there's pushback in people saying, oh, I'm not a celebrity, I'm not an athlete, I don't need all this, or?
Yeah, definitely.
So who can benefit then? Who is the type of person that a health and wellness coach can benefit? If it isn't a celebrity, if it isn't someone who needs their body to be in peak physical condition.
Right, so it actually is for everyone. So of course there's people who are very educated and do a great job of taking care of their own health, but there's a massive portion of our community, of the US society, that is either overweight, obese, or dealing with some kind of illness. Heart disease is it's the number one killer here in the US, right? And so we just have all these people dealing with all these different health issues, and a lot of it stems from lifestyle choices, right? So really, I would say a majority of the population could benefit from a health and wellness coach, and while some can be very expensive, there are a lot of other options for finding the right coach or even program for someone who doesn't make celebrity type money, or even, and it's not about trying to get that celebrity body either. It's about what I really focus on is longevity. So adding years to our life, but I also like to say adding life to our years. So making sure that we're enjoying the time that we are alive, because if you get to 100 years old, but from 90 to 100 you were, bedridden, then what's the point, right?
Sure. Yeah. I was, on your website, and there were really some sobering statistics about, like you said, the impacts of poor diet, lack of exercise, lack of sleep, not only from, people dying, before they should, lost productivity, the impact on the economy. It's staggering.
Yes.
And like you said, small changes can make an enormous difference. So it is so difficult for people to make changes in the areas of food.
Yes.
And exercise and maybe even sleep and stress. How do you get started making that change? And we all know the cliche of the broken resolution,
Yes.
I said I was going to do it this year, and so how, what's realistic?
So thank you for asking this. This is very important. The way I do it is I make sure that when I'm coaching someone and working with them, I try to give them very sustainable tips for the long haul, right? So it's like they say, the best workout is the workout that you will actually do.
Sure.
So if you're willing yourself to go to the gym every single day, eventually one day that willpower is gonna run out and you're just not gonna go, you're gonna feel like a failure, and then you're in this downward spiral. Whereas let's say you just started walking after each meal for 10 minutes, right? That adds up to 30 minutes a day if you're eating 3 meals, and that's now 30 minutes of exercise that you wouldn't have had if you had, thought that working out and exercise was just going to the gym. So I always say, don't let great be the enemy of good.
You came to this from a very personal place.
Yes.
Can you talk to me about kind of your journey to living healthier and kind of what led you to being almost an evangelist of healthy living?
Thank you. Yeah, so where I started is around when I was 6 or 7 years old. I started experiencing a lot of flare-ups with my digestive system. I would have to, immediately use the restroom, like there was no time in between, and just very painful stomach cramps. I would wake up in the middle of the night with these terrible twists and knots in my stomach, which was terrible. And when
I can't even imagine what going to school was like. I mean, as a child, dealing with some of the...
It was very, it's something that I learned to kind of just work into my life, which a lot of people do. We live with these, diseases or illnesses or whatever they may be for so long that we just kind of adapt our lifestyle to them, which is what I did. For example, long car rides, I just wouldn't eat. I would fast for those car rides. It wasn't until, and by the way, I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, lactose intolerance, and I had a tapeworm for who knows how long. So all these issues, and the only advice they really gave me was to take pills for the parasite and to stop drinking milk, which granted, they're doing the best work they can with the tools they have, but they never looked at my lifestyle and really into my diet, which is not until high school. I was telling you I had a teacher, a Spanish teacher, who showed me that lifestyle and diet can really affect how you feel. And so that's when I went 2 weeks with eating just salads for the time because I didn't know what else to eat. And it was the first 2 weeks that I went without having any flare-ups. From that point on, I just started researching, doing my own, I call myself like a citizen scientist, trying to do my own research, read as much as I can on it, listen to podcasts, watch movies on health and how lifestyle and diet can really alter that. And it's done wonders for me.
Well, and like you said, I think, one thing that's so important is listening to your own body. You can read a book that says, well, here's what, you should do, or these are the symptoms, but it really has to be what works for my body. What does my body react to? And like you said, and even, in terms of willpower or scheduling or, time, what is realistic within, the life that I have. I know that you've got what you've identified as, we'll call them the top 5 elements of good health. And the number one, probably not surprising, is food.
Yes.
So are you talking about, is this healthy food, organic food? Is it portion control, diet? Talk to me about what you mean by food.
Yeah, so in terms of dieting, I don't really like to give specific diets to people unless they tell me what they're really trying to work on, because every individual is unique, their goals are unique, their genetic makeup is unique to them. So it's really about finding out what works for that specific person. But when I talk about food as a whole, I really mean just whole foods, which breaks down into one ingredient food. So food items, right? So if you bought a bag of apples, it would say apples. That's just one ingredient, as opposed to a box of cereal, which might have 20 ingredients in it. So finding foods that are just one ingredient and then very close to nature. So something that you would obviously find growing on a plant, a tree, from the ground, or even from an animal as well. So definitely focusing on whole foods and then trying to really eliminate sugars and poor, or what I call bad oils. They are like the main ones that we cook with: corn, soy, cottonseed, canola, vegetable. All of those oils, they go rancid really quickly, and they are not stable at high temperatures, which we cook with all of those oils, and they cause a lot of inflammation in our digestive system. So moving to avocado oil, coconut oil, butter, ghee, or even some animal fats as well, which are more stable at higher temperatures, are going to be better to cook with. Do
you find that there's any difference in taste or quality? I mean, do people push back? I don't want to cook with these weird ingredients. It won't taste the same.
Yeah. Well, with the oils, it's not so bad. It's more a price point, I think. In terms of food, it is difficult in the beginning, absolutely, because we have these taste buds that we have developed over these years, right? So it takes a while, but actually once you start making the change and you maintain it for a long enough period of time, it actually is hard to go back. If I had a real sweet tooth as a kid, I loved baked goods, and I still have a soft spot for those baked goods every now and again, but they are so sweet to me now. If I actually try to eat them, it's hard for me to really eat as much as I would have when I was a kid,
Number 2 is interesting to me because the word you chose stood out to me, and it's movement.
Yes.
And I wonder, Did you use that word because the word exercise frightens people or it intimidates people and they say, oh, I don't want to go to the gym? And that's not what you're talking about necessarily.
No. Yeah, so it is definitely because I think people have certain ideas, attached to exercise, but also because exercise can be really just movement, right? If you break it down, it is just moving the body. Our bodies are designed to literally move.
You mentioned walking. That's one of those basic movements
Exactly.
we have.
Yes, and so for example, with walking, if you were to go back even just 100 years, right? People didn't all have cars. They didn't have the accessibility maybe even to a horse or some mode of transportation. So we were walking miles and miles a day just to do the basic necessities, whereas now we have the luxury of being at home and being on a computer, but our bodies really take a toll in not being moved. So we really want to just find movement, whether that's yoga, lifting weights, walking, running, anything you want to do. Dancing, absolutely. Okay. Dancing absolutely is a great workout. And especially when you do a workout that you enjoy, your release of dopamine will actually be higher. So you will have a better feeling of just well-being after your workout if it's something you enjoy.
Number 3, and this is not surprising to me, but I want to talk a little bit about the impact it has, is sleep. Mm-hmm. And you're not talking necessarily about too much or too little, you're also talking about the quality
Yes.
of sleep. So fill me in a little bit more about what this means.
Yeah, so the general rule of thumb is about 6.5 to 8 hours of sleep that you want to shoot for. Now, the other main portion of that is the quality of the sleep. So you probably know that you cycle through different types of sleep while you're sleeping, like deep and REM and light sleep. So what we really want is we want to improve our levels of REM and deep sleep especially, because those are the types of sleep that really help with like memory, with our brain and repairing of the body. So we want to make sure that we are getting quality sleep. And so, for example, people might be waking up a lot during the night or having a hard time going to bed, or maybe they're even eating too close to bedtime, or maybe drinking a little alcohol in the evening, which can really inhibit you from getting into a deep or a REM sleep. It can, you might go unconscious, but you're not obtaining the benefits. So making sure that we have quality sleep is very key here.
What are some easy things people can do? I mean, obviously, don't look at your phone until the moment you want to go to sleep. Yes. You talk blue light and dimming light. What are some easy things that people can do to make those simple changes?
Absolutely. So in terms of, because people tend to, melatonin and all these other sleep drugs as well are becoming very popular, but the lifestyle changes are really where it's at. So stop eating at least 2 hours before bedtime to give your body the ability to digest the food that it's consumed. And as well, I used to track my sleep with an Oura ring, and I could tell when I ate too late because my heart rate was elevated and I didn't get at the best levels of sleep that I could have. So really stopping eating before, 2 hours before bedtime, maybe even 3 if you're able to. And yes, dimming the lights is huge. So I will always dim the lights in my house. I sometimes even put on a candle or two, kind of sets a little mood, I guess you could say. But it really, the reason is because we have artificial blue light coming from all of the lights that we use, and especially on our phones, from TVs, from laptops. And that tricks your mind into thinking that it's daytime.
Number 4, stress management. This is huge.
Yes.
So, I know from reading I've done that the effects of stress on our bodies is enormous.
Yes.
In ways that a lot of people don't realize, and in ways that last decades, to the point where we don't even remember what the original stressor was.
Yeah.
So how can people take simple steps to help manage stress? It's a very stressful world we live in.
It is. Well, and I'll try to be quick with this, but we live in a state that is usually either a low level of stress or high level of stress throughout our day. And the reason for that is because we have these stressors that aren't immediately in front of us. So you can think of like bills that you have to pay, or maybe your boss is angry at you and there's nothing you can do, or that person that cut you off, but yet you're still angry 4 hours later. Back in the day, it was like a tiger was attacking you and you had to run, and then once that tiger was gone, your nervous system would relax. However, since we have this constant stressor going on, we stay in a stress state. So this will play out in, poor digestion, poor sleep, poor quality of relationships, because obviously you're not in your best mood all the time. So some really easy tips to lower your stress levels and get into a relaxed state is simply to, for one, give some gratitude. They found that gratitude can really improve your levels of stress. So maybe gratitude before you eat some food, give a prayer, or even if you do a mindfulness practice, which is kind of bringing awareness to your senses in the moment. So what are you seeing? What are you smelling? What are you feeling? And really paying attention and bringing awareness to that is beneficial. And then the last one, which is my favorite, is breath work. So when you breathe, you can actually have longer exhales, which will help you to calm down the nervous system. So you can do a simple 4-part breath on the inhale, and then maybe a 6-part breath on the exhale. And you want to breathe in through your nose and exhale like you're blowing through a straw on the exhale. The other one would be to take a really deep inhale through the nose, and then at the top, take a little more of an inhale, and then exhale through the mouth again, and do about 5 of those breaths to help prepare for calming down.
We've got about a minute left, and I want to hit on the last one, which
Gotcha.
fascinates me. I
Yes.
never would have guessed this. Community.
Yes.
That is external to the body.
Yes, yeah.
So talk to me about how that plays a part in healthy living.
Absolutely. So what we found is with blue zones, which are areas in the world that have communities where there's abnormal amounts of centenarians, people who live to 100 and above. There's actually a community in Loma Linda. It's the Seventh-day Adventist community. And among all of these blue zones around the world, one of the main factors we found is that they have really good relationships and sense of community. It also helps to lower our stress, but essentially it boils down to having 5 people that you can call at any time of the day with any issue, and they're really going to care about you, and you're going to care about them if they did the same to you. There was also a Harvard study that was about almost 80 years long, where they followed these young men from different economic backgrounds and all these different kinds of backgrounds, education level, and they found that through this long study, the main thing was having good relationships in terms of a long life.
Well, what is it they say? It takes a village to raise a child. So,
Absolutely.
Evan, it's been fascinating having you on the program. I want to give a shout out to the website. It is elementalevan,
Yes.
just like it sounds.com. And tell me, the podcast is
Yes.
also Elemental Evan, and where can folks find you on social media?
So on Instagram and YouTube is where I'm most active. And then, the podcast is on all major platforms. You can find it's Elemental Evan, and that's where I provide a lot of free information, just like I did here with you.
Evan, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much as well for having me.